We are back, and joining us for our first conversation is a familiar face to me, and of course to many of our viewers in the capital city of Belmopan. We have Mayor Pablo Cawich joining us this morning. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
And he has with him Radin Santos, who is a councillor at Belmopan City Council, but he's mostly involved in sports, transport, and climate change. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
I often get the chance to interview the mayor of Belize City, so I'm very happy to see you today this morning. But let's talk about Belmopan. And let's talk, before we get into moving forward and your plans, if re-elected in the municipals next year, what has been your favorite accomplishment and perhaps maybe a challenge that you think you still need to fix?
Good morning.
Good morning.
First off, I'd like to say good morning to Belmopan and Belize, and I apologize for my voice. I am a little bit under the weather. So good morning, everyone. And we do plan to run for re-election. We believe that this team has been doing an excellent job in Belmopan. My personal view, what I believe would be one of our biggest accomplishments was or is the improvement when it comes to solid waste management. We've managed to increase the assets of what used to be the sanitation department and is now the climate action and environmental solutions department. We've managed to upgrade the asset inventory from 1.5 garbage compactors to 4 compactors. That has allowed us to improve the service across the city to 2-time pickups citywide, while it used to be 2 times in the center of Belmopan, and all the outskirts for some reason used to generate less waste and only got pickups once a week.
Mayor, from a political point of view, right? Belmopan has been growing leaps and bounds in terms of its size as a constituency and in terms of the number of residential and commercial areas within the city itself. How have you been able to keep up with this growth? You've mentioned solid waste management as perhaps one aspect of it, but in terms of all other aspects, including the whole idea of municipal governance, how have you been able to keep up with certain areas that are popping up within Belmopan?
Well, the movement is very rapid, as you expressed. Belmopan is statistically the fastest growing municipality in the country, and we believe it has to do with the life that Belmopan has now garnered. One of our main focuses was to try and bring that economy to life, which is why we started promoting a lot of activities on weekends to try and encourage residents to stay in Belmopan, to try and attract outside citizens and vendors into the city to cause that traffic movement, that foot traffic in the city. Thankfully, that has worked out, and we've managed to execute a lot of successful activities in the city that has brought very good economic benefits to its local businesses. One of the adjustments we've made is that coming from a technology background, we've tried to utilize and embrace technology in municipal management. So we've started implementing some new systems within the city. I was hoping to cover a little bit of the mandate that we've managed to achieve before we got into this portion.
We'll get around to it. No worries.
Yeah.
But we do have some systems that are scheduled to come later this year. I mentioned about a traffic system, a new traffic system that we're working on. It's in its final stages of testing. It's a fully online system that will allow residents to apply for services remotely and in the comfort of their own home. So that is an improvement that which we don't see anywhere else in the country. So it's one of the steps we feel proud of. We also have a app which we will be releasing. We were hoping for later this month, and I still believe we're on target. It's a Clean City app, which works in collaboration with the waste management solution. This will allow residents to track and sign up for notifications and a notification system to alert them when the garbage compactor is 1,000 feet from their house, 5 minutes from their house, so that in case they haven't taken out their garbage, they know I need to take it out now, or else I miss the garbage truck.
I really appreciate that there are a lot of ideas, and there's definitely movements and actions taking place, but kind of alluding back to Isane's question, balancing that progress, because I live in Belmopan, and for as much as I appreciate all of the growth and so forth, it seems that there's still ways to go in balancing San Martin, Maya Mopan, Central Belmopan, all of the other areas around it, Las Flores, as making us feel as one united front. And I say this because a lot of action does take place simultaneously, sometimes in the center, and not having the people from those areas come in, and vice versa, right? So how do you establish a relationship with everybody and ensure that everybody can feel that growth and that progress?
Well, we do try to move activities across the city intentionally to try and get the population to move to these other areas that they might not tend to visit. So when we organize activities, especially in sports, we tend to move around the city to try and give different local vendors opportunities as well to come out and get some income for their families.
Mayor, along with any growing municipality are real-world challenges, right? Crime and violence being one of them. You can't have a city that's growing exponentially and not have an issue of gangs, not have an issue of robberies and these kinds of criminal incidents. Along with the Belize Police Department and along with the area representative for Belmopan, who's also the Minister of Home Affairs, what have you guys been doing to try to keep a lid on crime and violence in Belmopan? We've been covering recent events where you've had loss of life in the Garden City.
Yes, one of the recent initiatives is the expansion of the public safety, the monitoring unit. This is an initiative which the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Honorable Mira have started placing community surveillance cameras across the city to try and ensure that they can monitor and in the event of any incident, footage can very likely be gathered to utilize as evidence. Apart from that surveillance approach, I've also discussed a new solution with the Honorable Minister to implement as a backup solution, not as a replacement of any existing solution, where a WhatsApp number would be provided to each police station and substation in Belmopan to allow the office to be connected to the different neighborhood groups in WhatsApp, because that's also one of the initiatives we have embarked on. We are presently executing community meetings across the city. We've identified 14 stops, which every 2 weeks we try to aim for a different area. This allows us to engage with the community. It allows us to get feedback on issues that they might have, on things that aren't working properly. So through this, we are also encouraging the neighborhood groups to become more active. And with the presence of the police department in these groups, they would have that more real-time awareness of any issue that might be arising.
I want to bring in Mr. Santos in on the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. When you all are in the decision-making room with Mayor and you are planning out the ways that you're going to tackle certain issues, particularly in transport in Belmopan, one of the crime and violent issues that are taking place, most of them are happening, yes, during the daytime, but also we've seen incidents that occur in the night and so forth. In terms of your areas and the way that you are able to work, how are you all assisting in planning out how transportation works in Belmopan to ensure that there's safety?
Good morning. Thanks again for having us. We have a monthly caucus meeting at the council, and we have recently implemented a traffic advisor board. This board is not necessarily to only handle traffic-related incidents or the topic of traffic as well. We also include the police department is on that board as well. They sit on that board. They have a representative, the National Transport, as well as members from the Belmopan City Council, myself being one, and the mayor heads that board.
Taxi, bositos.
The taxi and the bositos. So we try to get everyone involved, all the stakeholders. The police provide their insight at these meetings. The different stakeholders, as I mentioned, the bosito representative, the taxi representative, the transport representative, everybody, the police provide their insight, give their insights at these meetings in an effort to improve not only traffic in the city, traffic-related matters in the city, but as well as the security aspect in the city as well.
I find that I still think that for some of us that are trying to make their way into that commute, are we still really only going to have one stoplight?
We have explored the expansion of the stoplight infrastructure. We had identified 3 other intersections where we believe stoplights are necessary, but we're not limiting our vision to just stoplights. We have explored and are presently trying to make arrangements to implement some new connections within the city that would allow traffic to find new routes around the ring road. Because presently everything that happens in Belmopan, once you have a necessity to move between neighborhoods, you have to hit that ring road to move to another area. So we're presently trying to create new routes that would allow alternate routes for the traffic.
Mayor, City Hall came under fire recently from the business community, where the whole tax regime for trade and what have you are concerned. Have you been able to address that issue, and what has been the feedback from some of the business owners in terms of the adjustments to these various expenses, these costs?
Yes, we have managed to resolve that issue. The main issue was a misunderstanding of what was actually being executed. A lot of people misunderstood and thought that it was the implementation of the new trade regime, which was not the case. As I had explained in some of the interviews, the trade board had requested reassessments of many of the businesses, and this is what caused that analysis of business layout and things like that that had to be reanalyzed. But as expressed in the latest interviews, it's something that we have reached out to the major affected businesses, and we have passed that issue already.
But I want to stay on the topic of taxes, because even though it is the business tax the business trade license, that we're talking about, Belmopan, apart from Belize City, has the highest cost of living in the country, right? The taxes are high in Belmopan, and for as much as we as citizens, we are trying to ensure that we maintain a certain lifestyle there, it's a very real thing, and we are also a student city. So how do you counteract being a student city that should be affordable, but many people are trying to find other avenues to work and move out of the city because of the high cost of living?
Yes, unfortunately, cost of living is not just local. It has a global and national influence, and while the trade license has a direct impact on businesses, we do not believe that it is the true factor in the cost of living being high. We have to. One of the things that we've pointed out to the Ministry of Local Government was that, in our view, while doing these revisions of trade licenses or the fees, we found many discrepancies that we believe are unfair. It allows for some well-established businesses, for example, a doctor's office, due to their structure or the doctor's office layout, it utilizes less space than a vegetable vendor. And due to this being that the new type of approach relies on productive space, this causes the doctor to pay a lower trade license fee than a vegetable vendor. So these are some of the complications that we have relayed to the ministry, and we need to try and adjust these things to ensure fairness and transparency, which the new regime demands for.
Mayor, I'll step outside from that for a few minutes, and then we could probably circle back to it,
please.
right? Dr. Philip Castillo recently concluded a poll in terms of your popularity with the constituents of Belmopan, along with the popularity of the area representative. And it seems somewhat favorable for you, right? In terms of the overall sentiment from voters and residents of Belmopan. How do you take that going into perhaps another term once you're re-elected? I ask simply because with popularity, it fluctuates, right? Maybe residents are satisfied with some of the accomplishments that have been made that are beneficial to them, whereas others still have concerns that are pressing that have yet to be addressed by the council and yourself as mayor. How do you take that going forward?
Well, firstly, I wasn't aware that a poll was conducted. I haven't seen the results as yet.
Just came out over the weekend, actually.
Okay. Well, one of the things with this team is that we don't do things for popularity. We do things to ensure that we are bringing the benefits that the community elected us to do. So we were serious, or we are serious about work, and we continue to be very serious about the progress of Belmopan. Some of the initiatives that we are embarking on will allow residents to better engage with the city council. For example, we have a GIS task management system which we are presently working on developing. This will allow the citizens of Belmopan, or the residents of Belmopan, to utilize citizen science to submit issues in the city that would be verified by a city council official, and once it's verified, it's entered into the task management system. This would allow tracking of that issue until it's rectified, or depending on the type of issue, it might just be informational to relay for a future solution. Apart from that, we also have a new mechanism where we are utilizing a 675 TEL hotline. This presently allows any resident to submit issues or concerns on via WhatsApp. That is presently manned by a human right now. We are presently developing an AI system to grab this information, categorize it, and relay it to the respective departments to ensure or to speed up that kind of systematic approach that can be applied. We believe that these types of improvements in communication will allow the residents to have more trust and more faith that we are serious about our slogan, moving Belmopan forward.
I wanted to, it all sounds great, right? It all sounds wonderful, but you still have parts of Belmopan that still don't have electricity and you know, by extension water. I know that those are growing spaces, but shouldn't we be quelling those issues first before tackling these larger technological solutions?
Yes, unfortunately, the role of utilities when it comes to the city itself are limited. It's not a case where the city does the actual investment into this infrastructure. We lobby, we work along with the area representative to try and ensure that we can assist the residents to get these types of utilities.
Hold on. Forgive me. But those very same people, so if we're looking at the Rivera era, for instance, right? They have been without electricity since they expanded into that part of Belmopan.
How long ago?
I can't tell you. You could tell me that.
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Okay, fair enough. But they've been paying taxes, right?
Yes.
So why are they still cut short from these basic utilities? You have people who live in a certain parts of Belmopan who are fine and comfortable where they're living. They're paying the same taxes like some of the same people in Rivera who have been clamoring for electricity. Can't it be a situation where the municipal government teams up with central government, yourself as mayor and Oscar Mira as area rep, to make sure that these people get what they deserve in terms of utilities, especially if we're talking about an expanding city? It might be an issue that pops up somewhere else in Belmopan when people decide to move into that area.
Well, it is a reality about new developments in Belmopan.
Yeah.
So it is something that we are actively working on. We are presently working towards the implementation of the light infrastructure in that Rivera area that should be achieved hopefully in the next month or two. But that's up to BEL. That's not up to us.
Yeah.
The works when it comes to the lobbying has been done, and if I'm not mistaken, BEL is presently implementing or commencing the implementation of that project.
Sticking to, you know, basic needs and utilities and so forth. Let's get into infrastructure just for a bit. And I know that there's a lot of infrastructure happening in most of the communities behind, like Mayamopan and Las Flores and so forth. But within Belmopan Central, you still have drainage issues. We still do need proper infrastructure and roads and so forth. Are there any plans to fix those issues?
Well, one of the major constraints in the past has been assets. Would you like to explain about this part?
Sure.
Jump in whenever you can.
So I'm not the only one talking.
Upon taking office, as the mayor mentioned, there were very limited assets at the Belmopan City Council. When we say very limited assets, a handful of weed eaters that were used to clean the buffer areas, one compactor, maybe one or two vehicles that were utilized by the staff at the Belmopan City Council. We've grown that asset, in my opinion, tremendously, the asset base. We have about now, as I mentioned earlier, the weed eaters, we have about 20 of those now, all functional. We've purchased a backhoe. We have a working dump truck. We have an excavator. We have a grader as well. And to go back to what you mentioned just now, Ms. April, about the infrastructure work in Belmopan, this allows us, the council, to do our own work instead of contracting private contractors who are in the business to make money. We get to save that aspect of it, and our employees receive the necessary training to handle these operators. We also have our own mechanic, heavy duty machinery mechanics. So we don't have to. These machines are working daily, right? They're working hard. They do break down from time to time. Instead of going to a private business owner, and I'm not saying we don't want to go to private business owners, but in an effort to have the council be efficient and effective, we have our guys in-house who operate these machines and who repair these machines. And so they're out there pretty much daily, Sunday to Sunday. I know we've been in the one of the other areas, the J&W area. We have two sections, one that is this side, the right side of the creek, and another that is on the left side of the creek. We've even been doing works on the weekends to improve the infrastructure in the area. Yes, the main road is beautiful and is paved, but we still have the other streets that need these works. Some of the streets, we've noticed that the grass has taken it over. Proper drainage is not in certain areas. Yes, we have grown our assets, but we still have a limited amount of them to say, this weekend we're going in this area, that weekend we'll be in another area. We can't be working multiple areas at the same time. We start projects and we ensure that we finish them before moving on to another area.
Another topic that I wanted to, since I have you here, Mr. Santos, we have a student life in Belmopan, particularly with the University of Belize. And some of the questions have been in terms of transportation for students within the city area, particularly after 5 p.m. Are there any plans or so forth to work alongside with the university to ensure that there is safe transportation for these students?
Well, we know the bositos in Belmopan operate pretty much all day. We are aware that there is a local businessman in Belmopan that has been partnering with the bosito owners and install trackers on these bositos. That way, if the commuter would download, I think it's an app that he has, would download this app, they're able to track the bositos when they're coming. As the mayor mentioned just now as well, we are in the testing stages of a taxi app. And that in itself is like an Uber style. You know, it allows the user to do the same thing that you do when you're using the Uber, and the closest available taxi would come to you. It allows you as the user, a student, to safety. It promotes safety. You know, you know what taxi you're jumping into. It will provide the license plate, the color, certain details about the taxi you're jumping into, and valid legal taxis who would be on this app. And it allows you to share this information if you don't feel safe, if you feel you need to share it with a friend or a family member. So yes, it's something that we're trying to roll out to assist with safety in Belmopan, and we're hoping that not only the working population would use it, but the students as well.
Yeah.
So the theme of this conversation is moving Belmopan forward. I want to focus now on what's in store for the residents of Belmopan as you as a council prepare yourselves for a potential second term in office. What is the mandate going forward, and what can Belmopan people expect from your leadership?
Well, with moving Belmopan forward, we have to talk about progress. And most of our municipalities have not really pushed to start embracing technology to its fullest. So that is one of the steps which we are presently embarked on. we believe that we have to embrace technology, and that is how we will allow the citizens to get better service. So a lot of our solutions are system-based, but systems can only do so much. We also need to ensure that we continue with the climate side of the world. So we need to ensure that as we move Belmopan forward, we do so with climate resilience in mind, with sustainability in mind. So this is one of the reasons we have managed to develop a climate action plan for Belmopan. We are utilizing that as a guide to ensure that we move forward in the correct direction. Belmopan has actually been utilized internationally or regionally as an example of a model city due to the initiatives that we have embarked on. For example, the waste management approach, our greening initiative when it comes to green waste management by us investing in a chipper that is moved around the city to chip up branches and trees. So we have to also consider that self-sustainability or environmental side as we move forward, especially since hurricanes are a big issue in today's day and age. We don't get hurricanes only in the hurricane season now. The climate action or climate change has caused our timelines to shift. So we need to definitely ensure that we move along with that concept in mind as well.
Yeah, before we wrap up and so forth, I kind of still wanted to understand a little bit more about the climate action. I'm assuming this is on your desk in terms of resiliency, because we're kind of like a basin, Belmopan. And even though we are pretty much safe when it comes to some of these natural disasters, we still suffer things like flooding and so forth. So let's talk about the action plan before we leave.
And this is where some of the assets come into play as well. We try to mitigate in terms of the areas that may experience flooding to ensure that we have proper drainage. Which is not just proper drainage, but maybe even along the lines of climate resilience. Another a project that we recently embarked on was the raising the level of a flood-prone area in Belmopan that serves as a catchment for water as well in the Salvapan area. So we embarked on this with financing from the Protected Areas Conservation Trust, and we've been. The project is in its implementation stage. Like I said, we're going to be raising the level of the street, putting in proper drainage to link it to the main drain, so that we mitigate the flooding in these areas. It's not only that area that we're working on. As I mentioned earlier, in the different areas in Salvapan, Maya Mopan, San Martin, our excavator has been out putting in drainage in these areas, again, to mitigate the flooding in these areas. And another thing that we are looking forward to is the separation of garbage in Belmopan, of waste in Belmopan. We also want to, not just to utilize the compactors that we have, we plan to take it a step ahead and have these compactors that will not see the employees of the council having to wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning and being exposed to these to the garbage and emptying the garbage. We want to go to the mechanized ones that will pick up the garbage containers from the side of the street, separated again, of course, and emptying them into the compactors. Of course, we'd have 1 or 2 persons being on board because they are machines. They may break down from time to time or have a small malfunction. But that's the direction that we want to take Belmopan in.
Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, I want to say thank you both so much for joining us this morning. Mayor, last words to Belmopan as we wrap up.
Well, I would first like to thank you guys for having us on the show today. I would also like to thank a couple ministries that allow us to ensure that we get our job done in Belmopan, specifically the MIDH, Ministry of Local Government, and obviously the Honorable Oscar Mira for always collaborating with the council, and obviously the people of Belmopan. I hope that we can continue serving the city and its residents and improve services and life on a whole.
Wonderful. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Digi brings new spring deals. No, I can't say dry deals. Yeah, new spring deals.